Welcome back here on Jacket Sports Weekly. We are back from spring break, which means the winter season is done and the spring season has just begun. I'm Tyler Zeman. Joined alongside me today is Logan Lepiscopo. And with that being said, we're going to get right into it. Baseball went to Florida this past week, went 3-3 in their 6 games, and Mike Bell, he went off in his first match last week.
Yeah, he started the first day 3 for 3 batting. The next day, kind of a slump, 1 for 5 up there in the box, but then he managed to bounce back with an RBI single against Trine in the 10th inning, sending Alec Anglemore home to win that. I'm very impressed by this team overall, 3-3, better than what the team did last year when they were in Florida. So I think there's a lot to look forward to. The team's also much younger on the mound. They lost Joe Sabalak. They lost Corey Fisher on the mound as well. So they're going to be looking to find some aces to get into the pitching rotation. And a lot of these young guys could be the next step up to take over that job.
Yeah, I mean, and the bats are rolling right now. 10 guys over the 250 mark. Gavin Pratt, the new pitcher for the Yellow Jackets, got his first collegiate win during the stretch. Like you said, the starting rotation, pitching-wise, is still the big question mark. But, I mean, these guys are battling, and you can tell that there's definitely a new feeling around Waynesburg baseball after this past trip to Florida. Now we're going to move to softball. Softball, also a very fantastic week last week in South Carolina at Myrtle Beach. They went 6-2, and, I mean, Sydney Wilson started off the season right where she left off, 2-1, 3.2 ERA. She had 19 Ks and 25 inning pitches pitched, and she also has a new addition with her in the starting rotation in Autumn Stemple, who also really just stepped up. I mean, 33 strikeouts in the first week of her collegiate career. That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd think it was hard enough for PAC teams to battle against Sydney Wilson. Now you have Autumn Stemple, who comes in her first collegiate appearance against Cazenovia. 8-0 win. She has 11 strikeouts, no earned runs, and just 3 hits. You've got a tandem now. Sydney Wilson was a freshman phenom last year. We've got a new one this year in Autumn Stemple. Fingers crossed she keeps it up once we start the season here in conference play. But similar to the baseball team, can't be mad about what the team did in their time in Florida. As you mentioned, the pitching was incredible, but also the bats were very good. One name to mention when it comes to bats is Ella Brookman. She had an incredible time in the batter's box in South Carolina. So I just think that both these teams are looking pretty good from what we've seen over spring break. Now we just got to see if it transitions into conference play and these out-of-conference games coming up in the next couple days.
Yeah, we know this team has plenty of power, and they also have speed running the bases. And then you match it up with the 3-1 record that Stemple had and the 1.53 ERA that she also put up in that time. Absolutely incredible. These girls are looking to defend their PAC title, and the PAC play will start here very soon, but they do have a few more non-conference games before they get into that time. Moving over to indoor track and field now, Catherine Henderson traveled to Birmingham to compete in nationals in the pentathlon. Like always, stellar performance from her, posting school record. She did just fall short of the one mark that she really wanted to hit down there. She needed to finish 8th. She finished 10th, and thus she didn't get that All-American title that she really wanted.
Yeah, obviously not getting All-American is going to be very disappointing for her. But from a season standpoint, what she did was just incredible. It seemed like meet after meet, it was a new personal record, a new school record. Here now in the Nationals, she sets multiple personal records. She sets a few more school records. And yeah, 10th place, obviously not what she wanted. She wants to be that All-American. But 10th place in the entire nation in D3 college for the pentathlon is incredible. She can't put her head down after the season she had this year. I'm looking very forward to outdoor season, not only what she can do, but also what the rest of the members of the women's and men's track and field team can do.
Yeah, just a matter of centimeters from 8th and 10th place. But like you said, quick turnaround for her. They're right back at it this weekend, starting the outdoor track and field season. And there's a lot of hype around both of these teams. The women's have plenty of younger recruits that just came in that they're looking forward to getting into. And the men's team as well. You have returners who lit it up last year, coming back, looking to come back even stronger. So definitely a lot of things to look forward to in the track and field program. Wrestling also took place in the national event last week. It was only Colby Morris that went, and he went 2-2. Started out strong, but obviously not how he wanted to finish. But, I mean, he just had a stellar season overall. I mean, 28-4 and 13 pinfalls in total. I mean, what a fantastic season from the local recruit.
Yeah, when you look at both track and field and wrestling, you see that one member represented the programs. You have Catherine Henderson for indoor track and field, and then you go over to wrestling, you have Colby Morris. Yes, that's great individual feats, but also when you look at it from Waynesburg's athletic perspective, that's putting Waynesburg on the map. Having 2 athletes go into the national qualifiers and nationals to be able to compete at such a high level among other D3 schools, it says a lot. And Colby Morris, he wasn't a guy that was really looked at coming into the season, but once the season started, you knew as soon as he hit the mats that he was going to be one of the top wrestlers for Waynesburg.
Yeah, and just like track and field, plenty of momentum here with Colby Morris. Excited to see what they can do next season. We also had women's lacrosse in action over the weekend, a 12-9 loss to Mount St. Joseph. Not the result they wanted, but Logan, they got a win to open up the season. That's definitely a big step for this program.
Yeah, coming in our freshman year, our sophomore year, and up until now, they hadn't won a game in 2 seasons. Their last win was, I believe, in the 2020 season, 2019-2020 season. They had 1 win, and now they get it this year at home against La Roche. It's definitely a great accomplishment. Obviously, you wanted to continue that momentum into the next game against Mount St. Joseph, but unfortunately, the team still has some growing to do. A new head coach, obviously, with some lacrosse experience playing herself, so we'll have to see what this team can do. Fingers crossed, some conference games, potentially. Waynesburg can pull out some victories, but nonetheless, the team getting 1 win already is a huge check off of the bucket list for the team.
Yeah, a lot of seasons still ahead for them, and a lot of the show still ahead for us. That'll do it for Logan and I up here breaking down the news. When we come back, we're going to invite the analyst up here to break down these sports even further.
Now swinging back to Wilt. Wilt inside. Hop step, kick out to Scheidt. Scheidt, corner, Knotts, 3-ball. Got it! We're all tied up! 64-64. 1:12 left to play.
He's going to have to chuck up a shot soon, too, and the shot clock ball is around. There's Jake Scheidt, and here comes Jake Scheidt and Baker. Scheidt, the long to Baker, slaps it home! Anton Baker!
Back here on JSW, and we're now joined by our baseball analyst, Jesse Cain. Jesse, you covered the team over spring break for the 6 games that they had. So just start off by talking about your experience down there in the Florida heat.
Yeah, it was hot. It was very enjoyable. Nice spring break we had. Joe Vinzel, the director and producer of JSW also went with me, and it was really fun. It was our first experience live statting and announcing all on our own. I mean, we did have Bobby Fox, the SID, to contact and help us with any problems, but we got things rolling and the team did well. They went 3-3. They surpassed last year's record in Florida, and we got to see a lot of young faces perform really well. I'm excited for this upcoming season, and obviously getting to stay with the guys and learning a lot about them. It was really fun to connect with the players.
So you talked about the team went 3-3, and you're excited for this year, losing a couple key guys on the mound, obviously Joe Sabalak and then Fisher on the mound. What guys on the mound during your Florida trip kind of impressed you and think could be those quote-unquote ace pitchers for the Waynesburg team?
Well, it's still early in the baseball season to really, look at the stats and numbers and pull a lot about the ERAs. We do have a lot of freshman pitchers that came in. We have a couple impressive ones that we saw time in. And some of those is Ethan Erhard. He actually lived with us. We were in the PO's house, but he performed well. He had one start again, and he's got a total of 13 innings pitched. He's got 14 strikeouts, so he leads the team in strikeouts. He's also got the most innings pitched of all pitchers on the team. So they're really giving him a lot of time on the mound, and he gave up 11 earned runs overall. He pitched during La Roche as well, so that's not just from the Florida trip. But other pitchers, we got Badillion, who's a sophomore. He pitched about 3 innings himself, and he's got a 3.2 ERA. He's pitched 8 innings, and he had 2 game appearances. But he also can be played in the outfield, and he's great at bat. And that's something that we saw a lot about the Waynesburg team was they've got a lot of those utility pitchers. I mean, you got the catcher, Aiden Williams, who goes on the mound. Alec Inglemore goes on the mound. A lot of those pitchers that Coach Perry Cunningham loves to see also play in the field. So.
Yeah, so moving over to the offensive side of things, right now the bats, they looked pretty good down in Florida. Was there anything that you saw that stood out for you whenever these players were in the box? Did they seem more confident, or?
They actually seemed a little more patient, which I don't remember seeing last year. They were able to take a lot and fight the full count a lot of the times and get a lot of walks as well, especially from the younger players. You're seeing them, hold the bat more. But Gavin Pratt is batting above 500. He's got a lot of appearances as well. He's got 14 hits, so he leads the team. Mike Bell went 3 for 3 in the first game with a walk, and he's batting 355. We've got a lot of players around that 300 area as well, and the young players are performing. And we've seen Badillion batting 296. He leads the team with 7 RBIs. Mendez, and of course Todd Burney. He actually didn't have the best performance in Florida. I mean, we know how phenomenal of a player he is, but he's batting 281 and he's got 4 doubles. He actually had 3 doubles in one game. So we've got a lot further to go as the team overall, I'd say, but a lot of highlights and a lot of unexpected players performing well. So when those expected players that have the high expectations, they start performing, I mean, this team's going to be pretty crazy this season.
One thing that I want to note kind of on the downhill, kind of a negative to look at, is the amount of runners left on base.
Yes.
If you look at the total, 59 total left on base over the course of this weekend or 4-day span. It's a problem last year a little bit as well, but finishing 3-3 obviously wasn't the biggest deal, but what ways from you watching, announcing, could you think that this team could maybe prevent so many runners left on base?
Yeah, well, I think that comes down to the batting order. We saw Coach Cunningham switch it up a lot, and he was just getting new faces in there. And we saw a lot of younger players, like I said, perform during certain games, but other games they'd really be down. Like, they would struggle with the bat. So I think it was the matchups with the pitchers. We actually faced a lot of aces because teams came in at different times for Florida. We had a lot of first games against the other teams, their first game in Florida. So it was a lot of pitching matchups as well, but I mean, it comes down to their batting, and consistency would definitely be key because they did have a lot of runners left on base, and with the younger guys in the lineup, I think they just need to find their order batting and, build chemistry among the team and with the bats.
So what would you say, after watching this past week, would be one of the strengths of this team that could potentially move them up in the PAC order in this upcoming season?
It's definitely hitting. It's definitely being on the plate and getting on base, because you mentioned we had a lot of left on bases. I'll just go straight to the downside of the team right now is consistency with pitching, and that's even consistency with the same players. Like Ethan Erhard, he pitches great one game, and then the other game he really struggles a lot. So I know he's young, and he's really impressed me. That's why I'm using him. But just the consistency on the mound, because there's a lot of high-scoring games, which is going to be difficult to, keep like St. Vincent and W&J low scoring to match with your bat. So pitching's a little on the downside, but I mean, on the other side of the ball, it would be batting is definitely impressive to me.
And looking at the schedule moving forward, some out-of-conference games coming up. Penn State Altoona, Pitt Bradford, Wilson, and Wittenberg. PAC play will start on March 25th against St. Vincent. The team preseason poll, 8th place ranked among the coaches that voted. What can this team do to jump that mark and show people that this team can seriously compete in the conference?
I know I've already said it a lot today, but consistency overall, and I think that will really start to get in. I'm actually glad they're not going right into conference play. We did see St. Vincent, and I know Washington and Jefferson were at the Invitational, the Rest-Mat Central Invitational as well. But we saw, like I said, St. Vincent and them, but also Penn State Altoona was there, and I know Coach Cunningham had a chance to talk with their coach, even maybe rescheduling the game because of weather just in this week. But they are scheduled to play Thursday, a doubleheader. But I'm sure they got scouting on them while we were there. So I'm thankful that they've got these non-conference doubleheaders coming up before they play St. Vincent March 25th, just to get in the groove and to feel the right process for these starters to go with. And then with your more difficult games, the games that matter, who you're going to go with on the mound, when it's really going to matter, who you're going to go to, with your batting order and such too. So I'm kind of thankful they don't go immediately into conference play because there's still some things that need to settle down.
All right, well, thank you, Jesse Cain. When we come back, we will go over to the women's side of things and talk about softball with Darrion Allensworth.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
Welcome back into Jacket Sports Weekly. Now we sit down with Darrion Allensworth, who had the privilege and honor of traveling with the softball team down into Myrtle Beach. And Darrion, before we even get into the games, just talk about being able to announce all these games, especially multiple a day and then day after day. What was that like for you?
It was honestly a lot of fun. I did a lot of prep going into Myrtle Beach. So the amount of prep that I had definitely helped make things a lot smoother. There was a little bit of prep that I did in between some games as well that I could only do, in between games, like just going up to coaches, going up to stats players, figuring out pronunciations and other things like that. But my time in Myrtle announcing those games was a lot of fun. Dante Parente, Baldwin product. He was a big help with stats as well as color guy after the first two games. He just did stats, but then after that, he really helped me, helped carry the broadcast, just announcing wise. And then the players themselves, I did post game interviews after pretty much all the wins, and the players were great interviews. Any questions that I had, whether it was the coaching staff or the players, they were just a lot of help. And Myrtle overall, exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I'm sure that warm Myrtle Beach weather was also a plus to be in. But let's get right into it now. 6-2 down there at Myrtle Beach. And something that really stood out to me over those 6 games was obviously the pitching, but more importantly for me, the bats. They have 9 players right now batting over 250. Which is very impressive. What was kind of the thing that you saw that allowed the team to put on that hitting performance?
I think anybody who watched this Waynesburg University softball team last year, they were iconic with their just explosive innings where they would score multiple runs in an inning, and that carried over into Myrtle. Because they had 0 seniors last year, so pretty much everybody part of that PAC championship winning squad was back this year. On top of that, the newcomers that they brought in, as well as some of the players who didn't get much of an opportunity to play last season, they also stepped up stepped up to the bat and just played extremely well. Obviously batted extremely well. Ella Brookman had a game where she had 2 triples and a single. Her and Ella Brookman's a junior. Brent Hunter, one of the 2 seniors on this squad, they played in every single game and were like the 2 pillars batting wise for this Yellow Jacket squad, and they both batted extremely well. The freshman Cassidy Trimble, Jasmine Damaski had a home run against Eastern Nazarene, where a 3-score home run. After that, they ended up ending it by mercy rule. So just from the newcomers to the returning squad of last season, they just up and down are just composed when it comes to stepping into the batter's box.
And obviously you mentioned ending it early with the mercy rule. They had 4 games that they did so. Obviously, thanks to the bats being able to put up the runs. But let's talk about the pitchers. We had Sydney Wilson last year, came on very strong, freshman phenom, if you will. And now we have this year, who seems to be another very talented freshman pitcher, Autumn Stemple. Her first collegiate game, 11 strikeouts, no earned runs. Talk a little bit about watching her and Sydney both on the mounds, kind of just dominating, honestly.
So, Autumn Stemple, the rumors about her going into the season were like Sid Wilson-esque. Like last season, we heard rumors that, hey, this freshman pitcher for Waynesburg, she's pretty good, and then ended up surprising everybody last season. Sid Wilson, obviously, a PAC Pitcher of the Year, PAC Newcomer of the Year, first team All-Pac selection, was elite in her freshman season. I could see more of the same with Autumn Stemple, 2-time first team All-State in high school. She's an elite pitcher, to put it simply. Again, in the 3 games that she pitched, 16 innings, 28 strikeouts. Again, winning the first 2 wins were by mercy rule in 5 innings, and she's just composed. The 1-2 duo of Autumn Stemple and Sydney Wilson it's super strong, and just some of the ways that they used both pitchers in some of the later games that they played in Myrtle, I think is going to catch some teams in the PAC off guard.
So obviously this team, the defending PAC champs, they now not only have 1 good pitcher, they have 2 good pitchers now. The bats are rolling. What's one thing that you really like about this team that throughout the first 8 games, really set this team apart?
It's the depth. It's easily the depth. They're deep at every position, pitching wise, fielding wise, batting wise. They just have all the categories covered. The newcomers, the freshmen, the sophomores that didn't get to play as much last season, they were consistently good, as well as the returning team from that PAC championship also just picked up where they left off. So if I had to pick something that would distinguish themselves from other teams, it would definitely be their depth.
And just one final question to kind of wrap things up. You mentioned PAC championship last year. They were ranked number 1 in the polls to repeat as the defending champs. PAC play comes up in March 30th against Chatham. They have games against Teal, but they won't count towards that play. Is the team going to start out hot, or do you think for sure after seeing these 8 games that they are that team to beat? Or do you think there's still some competition like Chatham, like Westminster?
So I think if you talk to any of the girls, they're all of them. They have confidence, but they're not. There's not arrogance with them. I think that they are basing off of their play in Myrtle. I think that they will be consistent. I think, God forbid, knock on wood, as long as no injuries happen, they will be the team to beat in the PAC.
Well, thank you very much, Darrion, for your time here talking about the softball team. That's it for this segment. When we come back, we're going to sit down with Meg Berry to discuss the track and field team.
We're back here on Jacket Sports Weekly, now joined by our indoor track and field analyst, Meg Berry. Meg, Nationals were just last week during spring break, and Catherine Henderson was the only person to attend the event, but she did very well competing in the pentathlon, obviously set some new records. You want to just talk about the success she had over last week?
Yeah, she did have a huge success. Yes, it wasn't what she wanted. Obviously, every athlete's goal is when they qualify for nationals is to become an All-American. And to become an All-American, you place top 8 in the nation. And unfortunately, she was just this far away. She was 50 points away from becoming an All-American. She got 10th place overall, but being 10th in the nation, that's still something to brag about. And on top of that, she came back with 4 personal bests, and 3 of those personal bests being school records. She has the school record now in the 60-meter hurdles. She had a personal best in shot put, and the school record again in high jump, which was already previously hers. She just broke it again, and has the school record in the 800-meter as well. So although she didn't come back with that All-American title, she really still came back with her shoulders held high and a lot to be proud of.
Obviously, finishing just outside of that national or All-American rank definitely hurts. Finishing 10th, just as you mentioned, 50 points out. But what can we expect from Kat maybe in the outdoor season? Will she continue to partake in all 5 of these competitions, or is she going to kind of limit herself and focus to one specific event outdoors?
So for outdoor, it does change. It's a bit of a switch. So there's a lot of events added for outdoor. There's different throwing events, different field events, and a lot of different long-distance events on top of that as well. So the pentathlon goes from a pentathlon to a heptathlon. So it goes from 5 events to 7 events. So the javelin and I believe the 200-meter, the javelin and the 200-meter dash are added to the 5 events that she already competes in now. So she plans on doing the heptathlon like heading into the outdoor season this year. But right now, she's just scaling back. To do 5 events in one day, that's a lot on your body. It's very taxing. So right now, she's just scaling back, focusing on her main events, which are high jump and long jump. And she's just kind of taking it easy on her body until about halfway through April, until she has to compete in the heptathlon that time of the year.
Yeah, she definitely has a full plate ahead of her for this spring season. But let's talk about this women's team as a whole. Last year, finished 5th in the PAC. Not the success in recent years that this women's team has known to have, winning it from 2016 to 2019. What are you guys trying to do to get back into winning ways?
I definitely think we've created a lot of momentum coming out of the indoor season, into the outdoor season. We've had many girls really step it up, those being freshmen. Ella Booth and Claire Klaus, they're both freshmen. Ella runs middle distance to high distance, so she runs the mile, the 5K, and sometimes even like the 800. So she's really stepped it up. She had a really good indoor season, and I can definitely see that transferring into outdoor. And same thing with Claire Klaus. She did a great job keeping up with Michaela Rose, who again is an all-star in the PAC. So keeping up with her, who's a senior as a freshman, that's just a chip on your shoulder to definitely have. She's really coming out there, and that's just some of the additions for the momentum that we'll have coming out from indoor to outdoor season.
And then looking at the men's side of things, obviously Kat has been the focal point in the indoor season at least, and being in the national championships. But for the men's side, what can we expect? What guys are really going to step up? We've seen Isaiah Matthews in the indoor, Kai Herbert, just to name a couple. But who else could we potentially see on the men's side step up and get the men into potential competition like Kat was?
Those 2 for sure are big names that everyone recognizes. But on top of that, we have Zach Barat, Adam Helbling in the jumps, Zach in the sprints. We have Isaac Trout, a freshman, coming into the jumps as well. He's coming back from a hamstring injury from indoors, so I actually talked to him with some time off. He said he feels a lot better. He feels confident heading into the outdoor season. But then we have people who came from winter sports who didn't compete in indoor, who are competing in outdoor, like Tyreek Williams. He played basketball for indoor season, but he's a very good hurdler and sprinter. So to just have that extra addition, and he can keep up with Kai. So keeping up with Kai, you just get extra points, and getting that 1st and 2nd place right there would be a really good addition to the men's team.
Yeah, and lastly, obviously you've thrown around a couple of names already, but is there any other people maybe that have flown under the radar, women or men's, or freshmen or upperclassmen, that you think could potentially have a breakout year coming into the season?
I think there's a lot of athletes that can have a breakout year. You can definitely tell the momentum and the attitude at practice has just changed completely when we get closer to outdoor season. A lot of the athletes really like outdoor season and they just get extremely excited for it because it's a completely different atmosphere and things of that nature. But I can't pinpoint one specific athlete other than just the team as a whole. I feel like the attitude has really changed and we're looking for a really good season.
Thank you, Meg, and thank you, Logan. That is all the time we have on this week's Jacket Sports Weekly. You can catch the episode every Tuesday at 7 on the YouTube channel and on the community television station. Thank you, and have a good night.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.